This is Christopher John Björkness. It is May 12th, 2024. There has been a lot of controversy stirring around EUROVISION 2024. A lot of people did not want Israel to participate because the Israelis are committing genocide against the Palestinians. People around the world are protesting against that, calling on Israel to stop mass murdering and bombing the crap out of the Palestinian people. We have traitorous politicians in the American government trying to justify the mass extermination of civilians and calling for an event like Nagasaki, like Hiroshima, the atomic bombing of civilians. They are misrepresenting the Palestinian people as if Palestinians are an existential threat to the Israelis. What a joke, just the opposite. The Israelis are committing genocide, exterminating the Palestinian people. It is the Palestinian people who are being wiped off the face of the earth, not the Israelis. It's beyond absurd. It's evil. It's deeply, darkly evil. Speaking of which, a friend of mine who posts on the internet, on Twitter, on Odysee, various places, as writers of the She, has some wonderful insights into what took place in EUROVISION among the top Israeli contestant, Eden, as in Garden of Eden, Golan, and also the Irish contestants, Bambi Thug Robinson. And she caught that there was a stark contrast of very similar imagery between these two. And she noted that there was a moon in the background, and they both assumed the same pose before that moon, and she memed it, and she made several slides that she sent me juxtaposing the Irish Bambi Thug performance, which she correctly pointed out can be deemed satanic and represent the Gentiles, and it is juxtaposed to the beautiful, elegant Israeli woman. And one of the things that writers of the She posted under a thread that I had started about EUROVISION, I had no idea about this performance or the nature of it, let alone the Irish performance. And it was writer of the She who had this insight. And she posted under my post, coincidence, Ireland, the West Satanic, and Holy Israel with a big moon in the background. My insight into it is that this could represent Lilith, the satanic female aspect of the devil, and this would represent Shekinah, the female aspect of Yahweh, and both of them are related to the moon. Both Satan and Shekinah are deeply related to the moon as the shining darkness of primordial chaos, as the womb of the universe that becomes impregnated with the holy seed of the light. And again, she sent me some additional slides juxtaposing this, and it was very compelling and very intriguing and very insightful. So I went ahead and I watched the performances by both Eden Golan, Garden of Eden Golan, and the Irish Bambi Thug Robinson. Garden of Eden Golan's mother is a Ukrainian Jew. Her father is a Latvian Jew, and I believe they came out of the Soviet Union to Israel. So all of this is tremendously politically charged. But I see a lot of occult imagery and a lot of Kabbalistic imagery, as writers of the She also noted that. And In not the Eurovision video, but the official video for the songs that they did, the Irish one is filled with satanic occult imagery, and the Israeli one is filled with Kabbalistic imagery that is exactly what I've been talking about for years, related to the Garden of Eden, related to the tree of life, the Sephirotic tree, which is an olive tree, on top of the tree of death, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which forms the roots of the tree of life. And I've been saying for years, at the end of time, after the apocalypse, the two trees reverse, and the roots become the branches, and the branches become the roots. And the flat earth of Talmudic, Kabbalistic, biblical mythology flips. And the Jewish people live in the world to come, which is hell, which is illuminated by the black sun, by the shining moon of the black sun in the center of the earth. And the Gentiles are erased, and the daylight of the sun god Ra is erased. Geoengineering is blocking out the sun god Ra, and the Jewish people are going to live underground in the new Garden of Eden of the world to come. And this is going to be the Noah's Ark in which they survive. And I can see that imagery in this video, whether it's intended or not, but it matches exactly what I have been explaining for years. So this is a screenshot that I took from the Israeli video, and the song that she performed is called Hurricane, and it represents a protest song related to October 7th and Hamas's Operation Al-Aqsa flood. Flood, as in the flood of Noah's Ark, cleansing the earth to wipe away all the evil off the surface of the earth to create a new earth. And that is exactly what happens in Kabbalistic mythology at the end of time. The present world, Olam Hazeh, is cleansed away by a new kind of flood, nuclear war, disease, famine, darkness, all organic life being wiped out, as happened in the mythology of Gilgamesh and the mythology of the flood that was adopted and incorporated into the Old Testament. And so it's very interesting that the title of her song is Hurricane. And I haven't seen anyone explain that title, but I think that title means flood, as in Operation Al-Aqsa flood, as in the flood of Noah to cleanse the earth in the garden, to cleanse the Garden of Eden, to create a new Garden of Eden, as in Eden Golan. But the new Garden of Eden was polluted because good old Noah replanted the tree of death as a grapevine and became imbibed with chaos, with wine, and was raped by his son Ham. And in that way, he reintroduced Samael and the evil of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and the serpent back onto the earth. So the earth was recorrupted after the flood of Noah. So we need a new flood, and we need a new tree of life and tree of knowledge, and everything has to be reversed because creation was corrupted by the Creator God Yahweh and is inherently evil. So there has to be a new flood, a new hurricane to cleanse away the evil of the creation of the God Yahweh that has to be obliterated. And then the Jewish people can become their own gods. The Torah can be flushed away. The written law is meaningless. The oral law of Kabbalah becomes the map of creation of the world to come, the new world, in which the two trees, the tree of life, which is an olive tree atop the roots of the tree of knowledge, become reversed, and the flat earth gets flipped over, and they live in the world illuminated by the black sun and the world illuminated by the real sun, the sun god Ra, is obliterated by the flood. Now, that is also referred to, that process of the flood, this new flood of famine, pestilence, darkness, atomic bombs, chemical warfare, biological warfare, the powers of the Leviathan and the Behemoth, the Christians versus the Muslims and the communists, the Leviathan of the Atlantis of Great Britain and America being obliterated by the behemoth of the Eurasianists, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Muslims, mutually consuming and destroying one another is referred to as the birth pangs of the Messiah, the birth pangs of the Messianic age. That is the new flood, and those are the birth pangs we are going through. And that 9-month period began on October 7th, 2023, and it will culminate in the year 2030, and those are the 7 years of tribulation. But there is a 9-month period from October 7th and the Israelis' commencement of genocide against the Palestinians and this war with the Iranians. The Iranians represent the Persians, the Fourth Empire. The Persians helped to restore the Jews by crushing the Babylonian Empire. So the Persians are going to be used to crush the Fourth Empire of the Romans, which is Edom. They're going to be used to obliterate Edom. So we had the 4 empires, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Persia wiped out Babylon, so Persia is now slated to initiate a war in which Edom, in which Rome, in which Western civilization, in which all European peoples will be wiped out. But this is the birth pang period of that 9-month period from October 7th until they are hoping that Donald Trump becomes president of the United States in January of 2025. So they created this 9-month period of the birth pangs, 9 months as in the pregnancy period, the gestation period of a human female to give birth to the Messiah. And they are pinning their hopes, the Russians are pinning their hopes, the Israelis are pinning their hopes on Donald Trump ushering in that messianic era. And we are now experiencing those birth pangs of war, famine, disease, pestilence. And we have American politicians trying to incite nuclear war. And the Russians are trying to incite nuclear war, and we are being driven into these birth pangs of the hurricane, which I believe represents the flood, Operation Al-Aqsa flood of Hamas, Noah's flood, the cleansing of the earth, Chevlei Mashiach, the birth pangs of the Messiah. So in that video of Hurricane, the official video, I clipped this screenshot, and you can see this represents the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of death, which is the roots of the olive tree of the tree of life. The olive tree gives off olive oil, which is lit in the menorah to illuminate the darkness. So they are moving into the Messianic age when the 2 trees flip and they enter the underworld that becomes their new Garden of Eden, which is hell, in which they worship their god Seth, who is the Egyptian god of chaos, who is Satan. And Ra gets subsumed, and the flat earth which divides the 2 is flipped over, and Malkut enters the Kalipotic tree of death as opposed to the Sephirotic tree of life. And the dead become the living. They are resurrected in the world of hell, in the world to come, Olam Haba. So this also is the same from a different angle, and those appear to be the branches of an olive tree. And again, the olive tree is the tree of life, and it is the Gentiles who are given the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is a grapevine, and the grapevine represents the blood of the soul. So in Kabbalistic mythology, We have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil being Christ's blood, being the blood of the serpent, being the soul of chaos. And that blood is to be shed. All the Gentiles are to give up their souls to feed the gods and to feed the resurrection of the Jewish people, who will then inherit the birthright of the firstborn, which is the firstborn tree of chaos, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which Samael planted in the north of the Garden of Eden. The Jewish people are ground up as olives. They undergo suffering to give up the pressed out olive oil. The grapes are pressed into the wine of blood, meaning the Gentiles' heads are crushed and they are exterminated. But the Jewish people are refined by being pressed to give off their oil, which contains the holy sparks of their soul that illuminates the world, because olive oil, when it's lit, illuminates the darkness. And the light of the world to come is the light of shining darkness from the black sun, which will emerge when the flat earth in their mythologies is flipped over. Of course, the earth is a globe. And this was depicted centuries ago in Robert Flood's diagram of the Sephirotic tree of life and the Kabbalic tree of death, and the idea that these will be reversed in the world to come in the Messianic age. And this is a Satanistic depiction. It's also in Kabbalah. A.E. Waite, in his books, talked about the demonic Kabbalic tree of life, the tree of knowledge, the tree of death, it's called in the Zohar, being the roots, and beneath the Sephirotic olive tree of life. And this again represents the grapevine. And then in the end of time, these two things reverse. And this represents the earth, Malkut, which is the seat of Shekinah. And Garden of Eden Golan looks very much like Shekinah standing before the black new moon in both her official video for the song as well as in her Eurovision performance. And then that moon becomes bloody as we enter the Messianic age, and I'll get into that in a moment. So this is a depiction of the flat earth model that I've been talking about. They believe that the star, as opposed to the moon, the star is the sun. And the sun illuminates the world for the 6 days of creation, the first 6,000 years of creation. But it is the sun god of the Egyptians, Ra, and they hate it. The Hebrew word for Ra means evil. So they try, and the Bible is filled with stories of how their God is the God of darkness, lives in a cloud of darkness in the Holy of Holies, which forms a black cube out of the blackness of the God of the Hebrews, which is the god Seth, which is related to the serpent Apis in Egyptian mythology. And they believe that at the end of time, after the apocalypse, this is the present world, Olam Hazeh, will flip and become darkness because they'll block out the sun. And then the world of hell, the world of the dead, will become the world of the living and be on top, because they're going to live in the underworld, which will be their Noah's Ark to survive the flood, and then their new Garden of Eden in hell in the world to come, Olam Haba. So imagine this image reversed like that. And you can see that olive tree that appears in her video, where the roots are on top and now the branches and leaves are pointing down. This is the world to come. This is the present world. And after this great flood, the present world gets washed away and they live in the netherworld. The world of the dead becomes the world of the living, and that's where they're going to exist. So now compare this with the screenshot from that video. And this tree never reverses. This is the way it remains throughout the video. So I believe that can be interpreted exactly in the Kabbalistic sense that I'm interpreting it. Here she is in a picture making, I guess it's supposed to be the heart symbol, But as I showed in my videos talking about the Turkish election, I believe that this to Kabbalists represents the caduceus. These fingers represent the two serpents, the serpent, the evil serpent of the left-hand side, which is Samael, and this is the holy serpent of Shekinah and Yahweh, and the side of Kedusha, the side of holiness, the Sitra Yemina, the right-hand side, the Sitra, the Sitra de Kedusha, the holy side, and this is the Sitra Achra, the other side, the Sitra de Shmola, the left-hand side, and this is the Sitra Yemina, the right-hand side, and the Sitra de Kedosha, the side of holiness. And so I suspect, because you see in the caduceus, you have the two serpents wrapping around each other. The central serpent is the androgynous serpent, which is the combination of both chaos and light. So it represents the union of the two serpents, which is what they believe ultimately happens. Just as there are two trees, there are two serpents, but they're ultimately one. They're the polarity of the Godhead when it becomes androgynous and unified into one being. And that's a part of the lyrics of her song, Hurricane. Hurricane as in flood, as in the birth pangs of the Messiah. So also in the video of Hurricane by Garden of Eden Golan, we have a blood moon, which is very significant in the present era and entering into the Messianic age. So keep that in mind, and we'll get to that in a moment. Well, let's get to that now. So this is the video. You can find it on YouTube. This was her Eurovision performance. You can see what looks like a moon. She looks like Shekinah. She could be dancing, depending on the Kabbalistic interpretation, either with Messiah, son of David, or with Samael, or with even her male aspect, depending on which phase of the transition from the present world to the world to come this is meant to depict, if it is meant to depict that at all. And then we have all of this imagery. People think it's the sunrise, but I think it represents the blood moon. So this is a Chabad.org posted article by Yehuda Shurpin. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. It's entitled Blood Moons, the Lunar Eclipse, and the 5th of Av. So a question was posed. This Friday is Tu B'Av, said to be the happiest day on the Jewish calendar. Oddly enough, I read that on that night, not only will there be a lunar eclipse, but in some parts of the world, the Middle East, stargazers will see a total lunar eclipse, the longest total lunar eclipse of the 21st century, also known as a blood moon. Does that have any significance? And the reply is, in describing future events, the prophet Joel foretells that God will set wonders in the heavens and the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun will turn to darkness, which is what I've been talking about. They're geoengineering the earth into hell to block out the sun, because the sun is the Egyptian god Ra, the god of goodness, truth, and beauty. And they have to take away all that Tiferes and Ois and Kedusha from the Gentiles, meaning the beauty and the might and the holiness of the Gentiles, which they claim belongs to them, which they claim the Gentiles get when they commit sins, and therefore they have a right to steal it from the Gentiles together with their wealth, as they did in the Exodus from Egypt. And then that will take away everything that sustains the life of the Gentiles, and the Gentiles will be nullified and dissolved back into chaos from which they supposedly came. So the sun will turn to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of God. And we saw that in that video where the moon turns into the blood moon, which some people are saying represents the sunrise. I think it represents the blood moon. There is much discussion in the commentaries about the meaning of this prophecy. Many explain it to be allegorical. However, the biblical commentator, Rabbi David Kimchi, known as Radak, explains that when there is a total eclipse, the moon appears dark. However, when it is only partially covered, it appears red like blood, symbolizing the fall of the wicked. The wicked are the Rishoyim, the wicked are the Gentiles and the apostate Jews. The wicked are the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, all of whom are slated to be exterminated and will not exist in the world to come. In other words, yes, according to some, a blood moon is indeed an omen, but an omen of the downfall of the wicked. So that is another image that represents the transition from the present world through the blood moon to the world to come and the destruction of the wicked, meaning the eradication of the Gentiles. As the world, the flat earth in their ancient mythological model flips over and becomes the world to come. So this is another thing that Riders of the She brought up and pointed out to me that I wasn't aware of, was this Irish performance, which she feels paints the Irish in an unfair and dark light, representing the Gentiles as satanic and an evil force. And it's I can't disagree. When you look at the official music video for Bambi Thug, the song they sang was Doomsday Blue. Doomsday, of course, representing the apocalypse, the end of the world, the birth pangs of the Messiah, the great flood that's coming to cleanse away the Gentiles, and the world of Ra, the creation of Ra, the sun god, the creation of organic light that depends upon photosynthesis and the light of the sun. All of that gets cleansed away, and the other aspect of the title is blue. And as I've been explaining, blue for the Jews wards off the evil eye, and it is the color of Shekinah, and it is the color of the Israeli flag contains blue to help them defeat the Gentiles. But blue, in terms of Gentiles, represents a fire from heaven which cleanses away the wicked, like the blood moon cleanses away the wicked, so that the present world, Olam Hazeh, is erased and the flat earth model flips over. And what's up becomes down, what's down becomes good, up. All the good, the true, and the beautiful of the Gentiles, their Tiferes and Ois, all of their holiness, all of their Kedusha is sucked out of them, stolen from them together with their wealth, like the Israelites did when they left Egypt. They took all the wealth of the Egyptians who had fallen in love with them and loaned them all their gold, silver, and jewels, and the Israelites just stole them from them. And they call that taking away their Tiferes and Ois and taking away their Kedusha, their holiness, their beauty, and their might, so that they then wither and die off. And that process was initiated with famine, as they are doing to the Palestinians, so that they give up their land and their birthright. Joseph starved the Egyptians with a great famine so that they would trade away their liberty and become slaves of the Israelites. And we see her hexing this image of a blue man. She has pentagrams, tattoos, and other satanic images. And it's a very dark and very satanic-oriented video. And Riders of the She thinks it portrays the Irish in a very dark light, when they are, in fact, a very noble, very beautiful, very dancing in the sunlight of the green fields type of people, cheerful and wonderful people, not at all fairly represented by Bambi Thug. And she sees this as an even broader set of imagery to represent the polar opposite of what the Israelis portray. And I think she's spot on. I think this is to represent Lilith juxtaposed to the Shekinah of Garden of Eden Golan. So the lyrics for both songs appear in the YouTube in the description, and I pulled them out because I think they tend to validate what I've been saying. Part of the lyric is this is in the song Hurricane by Eden Golan, writer of the symphony. The Torah is supposed to be the map of creation, and the world is created by that. And you also have the Song of Solomon, Solomon's song to Shekinah, Solomon's song to the goddess of chaos, in whom creation is made. So I think that represents Yahweh and Shekinah. Someone stole the moon tonight, took my light. Everything is black and white. Again, the moon represents Shekinah, stole the moon. That represents the transition. When the earth turns over and becomes illuminated in the darkness as the shining darkness. Take it all and leave the world behind. I believe that represents the end of the present world, Olam Hazeh, and the beginning of the world to come, Olam Haba. So the world of the Gentiles and the 6,000 years of flawed creation is destroyed, and now the Jewish people themselves can mold a new creation. They become gods, they become immortal, they become androgynous, they kill off the old gods and take their place, and then they destroy all of the organic life of the sun god Ra, which depends upon photosynthesis and the introduction of carbon, and they replace it with artificial intelligence, silicon, and other mineral-based life forms that they create. This hurricane, as I've said, the hurricane represents the flood, Operation Al-Aqsa flood, the cleansing of the earth, the erasing of the present world to give way to the world to come, and the birth pangs of the Messiah, which we are now going through, Chevlei Mashiach. You always leave one single light. Their God is the Holy One, and they see that as the Holy One of Seth triumphing over Horus, the moon triumphing over the sun, and that single light is the light of shining darkness. It is not daylight. It is the light of hell, the light of the black sun, the light of the underworld, illuminated by the fiery core of the earth. Bambi Thug's lyric in Doomsday Blues. Again, Doomsday represents this same process of Chevlei Mashiach, of the birth pangs of the Messiah, of the flood, of the destruction of the world in the apocalypse, of the end of the world. And blue is the color of the fire from heaven, which destroys Gentiles in Kabbalah. I guess you'd rather have a star than the moon. She is mocking that male voodoo doll that she hexes, that's made out of blue clay. The star should represent the sun. The sun is a star. The moon represents Lilith, represents Satan in the occult beliefs. And so he is preferring the solar god, as the Gentiles do, which the Midrash says condemns them to death. And the Jews worship the satanic lunar god, Seth, Shekinah. And since the moon can be seen during the daytime and at night, but the sun can only be seen during the daytime, they say that since the world will be flipped and the sun will no longer be seen ever again, the Gentiles who worship the solar god will be wiped out as the present world is wiped out. This is explained in the Midrash, as I've explained several times. but they're satanic lunar gods. Since the moon appears both in the day and at night, they will exist in both the present world and the world to come, the world of shining darkness. Just as the moon can be seen day and night, they will be seen in the present world and the world to come. But Esau, Edom, the Gentiles, has no part in the world to come, as many, many passages in the Zohar explicitly state. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my understanding of the Kabbalah of Eurovision. And I would not have been able to make this video if Riders of the She had not shared her insights with me and taken those screenshots, those intriguing screenshots, which afforded me the opportunity to lend my insights on top of hers and to further explain what it is that she discovered in all of this from my perspective. And I want to thank her very much for making that possible. I would also very much like to thank my donors for making all of this possible. And I want to thank all the people who've been retweeting my videos and posts on Twitter. That's also extremely helpful. And I'd get nowhere without you guys. And I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you very much. Carolus, Norbert, Federico, Umberto, Robert, at Alan Greenspun, Carolina, Paul, Donetta, Gregory, Bob, Lance, Bosma, Angelina, Jerry, Jeannie, Barry, Ali, Ryan, at John Garitas, Anisha, Kelly, Mark, Kevin, Gary, Elton, Oliver, Kathy, Wilson, and George. Thank you all so very much. Anyone who would like to contribute, you can do so at my website, cjbbooks.com. You'll find my books on these subjects. Very interesting, especially my book, Beware the World to Come, Rise Above the Gods Who Hate Us, and Satanic Secrets of Jesus Christ. All relate very much and describe exactly what I have been showing you in this symbolic imagery that appears in these two videos. So thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. Please like, share, and subscribe, and goodbye for now.